Gophers alum Rashod Bateman is about to go crazy in 2024. I'm telling you why. And on top of that, this girls' basketball team, they have all the talent, but they're getting in their own way.
Hey, you are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
What up, y'all? You are listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Today, we're talking about the Gophers who have 2 invitees to the NFL Draft Combine and just what that can do for them in preparation for this year's draft. Then we're going to move on to Rashod Bateman, a Gopher who is in the pros right now. You know, he's dropped the ball with some expectations, mainly due to injuries, but I'm going to tell you why he is about to go sky high in 2024. And then finally, we got to talk about this women's basketball team because they're getting in their own way and they need to show signs of life to close out this season. I'm going to talk to you about what is going wrong with that team lately, and we'll dive into hopefully what could change and help them get back on track to close out the year. So if you love Gophers basketball, football, or other things, all things Gophers, then be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube and make sure that you leave comments for others in the Gophers community. Let's hear about what you're excited for when it comes to next year's football team. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk about the odds for the over-unders and the wins for the Gophers. I had recently shared it on my Twitter, and it seems like a lot of Gophers fans are extremely negative. But I think the Gophers odds right now are something that I would take straight to the bank on the over-unders for wins. And we'll talk about that again tomorrow. So be sure to subscribe so you don't move that moving forward. Now, let's talk about these guys going to the NFL Combine, well, at least invited to the NFL Combine, in Tristyn Spann-Ford and Tyler Nubin. Both of them officially received invites to the NFL Combine, and I would be shocked if either of them turned down that invitation. Now, this is a great opportunity for Brevin to continue to build on his draft stock. He just comes off of the Senior Bowl week, which is helpful for him from a blocking standpoint because, yes, you get some reps in the practices and get to show the blocking, but then you also get the game and you get the opportunity to block live on live and show these scouts a huge part of your game, an asset of your game that you maybe couldn't do at a combine or a pro day. So he already had those elements to showcase how good of a blocker he is, and I think he put that on full notice. But you know, people have questioned, can he route run? Can he create after the catch and things like that? Well, he's going to have the opportunity to put those type of skills on display. So you're talking about a guy who is going to be able to go out there and show the other side of his game that he didn't get to really showcase too often with the Golden Gophers, who haven't been a very high passing team over the course of his career. So this should allow him to showcase more of the catching, the route running, the athleticism traits, which could potentially answer some questions that some scouts may have or hopefully play into his favor. And then you've got Tyler Nubin. It's his first opportunity in the pre-draft process to get looks and speak with teams firsthand. He ended up declining his invite to the Senior Bowl, was getting some minor cleanup stuff, and now he is getting ready to go to the NFL Draft Combine. So both players could really see rises in their stock, and these should be big opportunities for them to showcase in many ways that they possibly weren't able to with the Golden Gophers. So overall, I think both are extremely athletic players, and both of them could have a wonderful chance to showcase those abilities. Both should kill the interviews and the pressers and the meetings with the teams themselves. I think both of them, having been in pressers with both of them multiple times and talked to them off the field, I think that they're going to do great in that department. They're going to impress teams. They're going to impress teams with their knowledge and their professionalism and how they carry themselves off the field, and staying true to who they are while also representing the teams well. That part, no doubt about it, they're going to knock that out of the park. But being able to then go and display that athleticism, and that's what the Combine really hones in on, is the true athletic nature, getting your relative athletic scores and things like that, and also getting your medicals. I think everything should look good for these guys, and they should be able to help themselves moving forward. Now, if I had to guess current projections for these two players, I would say Tyler Nubin is currently in the second round. He's a second round guy right now, top 50 pick right now. And if he shows well in the combine and his pro day, I think he could absolutely creep into the back half of the first round, be the first safety taken in the NFL draft. And I think he is a player who can make a difference on the back end. He can play single high. He can be a guy that baits your quarterbacks into bad throws, bad decisions. And we've seen that firsthand with his career record of 13 interceptions for the Golden Gophers. Now, on top of that, you talk about Tristyn Spann-Ford. I think if you're looking at his projection right now for the NFL draft, it's a little bit tougher to project, but I would guess he's probably currently in about round 5. Now, many casuals, many fantasy football players that are just stuck on the receiving numbers, the touchdown numbers, they'll probably tell you, oh, he's lower than that, or oh, like Tristyn Spann-Ford doesn't have the interest from NFL teams. But first of all, that's just a plain lie, a plain false a false statement overall. But I think right now, Brevin is a guy who can continue to boost his stock if he can really showcase his catching ability, his getting out of his breaks, his route running. And that happens not only at the NFL combine, but also at his pro day. So he'll have 2 opportunities to really showcase that he can go out there and compete on the receiving side of things as a tight end as well. Now, he showcased his blocking, not only in his film, not only at the Senior Bowl, but just in general throughout his career with Minnesota. He's put that on display, been one of the best blocking graded tight ends his junior season, or his senior season, I guess, and then his super senior season. He still held his own, and there's good film out there on his blocking, so no issues there. But overall, I think that this could help him moving forward. I think a clean combine, getting in and out of his breaks and showcasing his catching, could put himself into that 4th round category if he absolutely balls out and he comes in faster and stronger than what is expected at both the pro day and the combine. Then Brev could intrigue the right fit teams, maybe looking at a day 3 or maybe looking at a late round 3. But overall, I think he's probably looking at day 3 right now, but he could still be seen as a top 5 tight end in this class. Now, next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about these Minnesota Gophers draft prospects, but I want to talk about a Gophers alum coming up next, and that is none other than Rashod Bateman, the only Gophers first-round pick in the PJ Fleck era. We're going to talk about why Rashod Bateman is ready to finally have a massive season in the NFL coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Gametime, because Gametime is the place to be when it comes to finding the best guaranteed deals, last minute deals on tickets. Now, Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, users get $100 off when you buy a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Now, not only that, but they have last minute deals, all in prices, view from your seat, and so much more, and their best price guarantee. Now, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, takes the stress off your plate, and you can just look forward to the event itself. Now, like I said in there, my favorite feature is that all-in feature, because there's so many ticketing apps out there that you look at it and you're like, oh, that seems feasible. You click on the tickets, you want to get it going, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, how did I get an additional $100 or so that I'm looking to spend for these tickets? I thought it was like $60. Well, if you go to Gametime and you go to the all-in view, you can see what it is, plain and simple. No hidden fees, none of that stuff. And you can get a real expectation of what you will be paying. And that just takes so much off your plate when it comes to finding the great deals. They're obsessed with helping you find ways to save time and money on tickets. And they have deals right up to the start of the event, or even an hour after its start. It's the place to find last minute seats. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, all Gametime users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. And on top of that, if you are a first-time user, you can use promo code Locked On and get $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about alumni Rashod Bateman, a legend here for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, one of the best wide receiver recruits that Coach Fleck has ever brought to Minnesota. He was already a high-standing recruit coming out of high school, but then he goes on to be a first-round pick for the Gophers, the only one in Coach Fleck's era here with the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and the first-round draft pick for the Gophers since 2006 with Lawrence Maroney. So you know what? So far, when it comes to him, he just finished year 3 in the NFL, and it's been a little hit or miss when it comes to his production. You look at year 1, he only played in 12 games due to injury, but he had 68 targets, 46 receptions, 515 yards, and a touchdown. Now, in 12 games and coming off of injuries and things like that, definitely some nice production as a rookie receiver in the NFL on a team that likes to run the ball. Then you head into year 2 and again suffered, plagued by injuries, 28 targets, 15 receptions, 285 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 7 games. So he wasn't able to even play half of the season. He was dealing with injuries on and off. You get to year 3. Now he had injuries, or he was recovering from injuries heading into the beginning of the regular season, but he was able to play in 16 games this past season. 56 targets, 32 receptions, 367 yards, and a touchdown. Now, yes, he had a fairly healthy season, and we love to see that. Now, although he was playing a role that was much smaller in this year 3 than in his year 1 role, where he was kind of the number 2 receiver, the number 2 target on the team behind Mark Andrews, this year he saw less receiving production than not only Zay Flowers, not only Mark Andrews, not only OBJ, not only Nelson Aguilar. There were a lot of different guys. Now, the Ravens passed the ball a lot more, and that's what you like to see because the opportunities could be there. But Rashod Bateman wasn't high in that pecking order. But I think that's going to change in 2024, which is why it could be a massive breakout year for Rashod Bateman. Because you're talking about Bateman missed the whole offseason with recovering from injury, with a new OC coming in, with a new system coming in. So it's safe to say that he was still shaking off rust and improving as the season went on. But then you look at what Coach Harbaugh has said even in the last month when he talks about Rashod Bateman and talks about an increased workload for Bateman in 2024. Rashod Bateman, he said Rashod Bateman has a great future. Yes, he runs great routes. He's developed into a great route runner. And I know Lamar wants to get him the ball as much as he can. I want Bate to flourish and make a bunch of plays, and he's going to do that. And I think he'll be a bigger part of it next year just by the fact that he was healthy all year this year and has had a chance to establish himself that way. He'll be starting and he'll be playing all those snaps and he'll rise to the occasion. So I think that's a big thing. The coach thinks that and still believes fully in him heading into year 4 with their team. Now, injuries have held him back, but when he has been able to be healthy, the coaches have liked what they've seen. On top of that, you've got 2 receivers, OBJ and Nelson Aguilar, who could both possibly be gone. They were both on 1-year contracts, and there's nothing guaranteeing that they're going to be signed back or at the same level or same role back to this team. So both had more receiving yards than Bateman in this past year, and both have contracts up this summer. If neither get brought back or only one gets brought back, either way, Rashod Bateman can move up in this depth chart, and he could possibly pass those guys knowing his coach has that full belief in him moving forward. Now, something that stands out with Rashod Bateman that should help him get more field time and get more opportunities with Lamar Jackson in this passing offense is that he was the separation leader in the NFL for a large majority of the season. Now, according to PFF, from weeks 1 through 14, Bateman saw the highest separation grade, just above the likes of people like Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson. That is elite company to be in when it comes to separating and having the separation for your quarterback. It's just the looks weren't going his way. Mark Andrews was seeing looks. Isaiah Likely was seeing looks. Zay Flowers was seeing looks. But if he can move himself up in that depth chart, get ahead of the OBJs, the Nelson Aguilars, and maybe increase those targets into the 80+ range, which is definitely possible as he moves up the depth chart, I think that separation can help him put on more production and help him break out in this upcoming season. So Rashod Bateman could be in for his best season yet and something to help him get paid moving forward. And it only helps the Gophers moving forward as well. The more success that he finds on the field, the more they have something to point towards to say, look, you can still make the NFL. You can still get production. You can still be a stud coming to the Minnesota program. So the more that these Gophers have success, your Antoine Winfield Jr.'s all pro, your Blake Cashman's balling out, one of the best linebackers in the NFL this year. You've got Devontae Campbell still doing good. You've got tons of players, Terrell Smith, Jordan Howden, John Michael Schmitz getting starts, and they are going to only elevate more guys coming this way, quality recruits, NFL future type players coming to Minnesota because they see that it can be done at this program. So it's definitely something to look forward to. The final thing I'll say about Rashod Bateman is that he was 11th of all the wide receivers in the NFL in average distance of target, or ADOT. And on top of that, his air yards were far greater than any season thus far. He had 811 air yards. His first year, he had 500 something. In his second year, he had 200 something. So he is seeing a lot more attempts, deeper looks, bigger shots are coming Rashod Bateman's way. And as they connect on those looks, he could be a big play receiver with his name on the rise. So that's what I'm looking forward to it with Rashod Bateman in 2024. But I want to shift the perspective a little bit because we're talking Gophers hoops, and the women's basketball team has been struggling. This is a team that I thought absolutely could make the NCAA tournament. Now, they were dealt a tough hand with a major injury, and we were curious how they could move or shift or adjust after that injury. But life after that injury has not been good for the Gophers women's basketball team. What does Coach Don Plitz-White need to do in order to get things back on track? That's what we're going to talk about coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at FanDuel, because right now, America's number one sportsbook, FanDuel, is hooking you up, and you can get buckets with your first bet over at FanDuel, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet that wins. So if you make a $5 bet or more that wins, you're getting $150 in bets if your bet wins. So bet on all of your favorite things for the NBA. You know, football's done. Football has washed away. Baseball will be here before you know it. But you've got an NBA and the NHL going in full steam. And right now it's All-Star Weekend. So there's some fun things to bet on, including the dunk contest winners, three-point contest. I'm sure they'll have something with Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry in their competition as well. I'm going to be putting in all of my favorable results for my Celtics, Jaylen Brown in the dunk contest, Jason Tatum going crazy in the All-Star game, and Derek White winning the skills competition. Who do you think? I know the Timberwolves are balling as well, the best team in the West. Their coach is coaching the All-Star game. If you want to get in on the action when it comes to NBA bets, you can go quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. And again, if you have a $5 winning bet or more, you'll get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Gophers fans, we are closing this one off with some women's hoops talk. Now, right now, it has been tough sledding since Mara Braun went down to injury. Now, you knew that Michigan State and Ohio State would be extremely difficult, even if Mara Braun was with the Gophers. But with those circumstances, it was tough sledding. It was probably improbable, and it turned into some blowout losses for the Minnesota Gophers. But that being said, losing to a Rutgers basketball team that was 1-12 in the conference prior to playing them, that is something that stings, and it's not really acceptable with what we've come to know from this coaching staff and this young Gophers team. Now, I get it's a young team, but overall, it has shown that loss single-handedly shows you how dependent and how too far dependent they were on Mara Braun and her scoring efforts on the offensive side of the floor. Now, the tourney-level teams that lose a big-time player, they still have a way to put away the bad teams, even without their key players. If, heaven forbid, Caitlin Clark were to have to sit out and miss some games, her team with Hannah Stuelke and Kate Martin, they're going to find a way to get wins against a team like a Rutgers, against a team like a Wisconsin or a Northwestern. They're going to put those games away, even without Caitlin Clark, because that's how the better teams, the NCAA tournament level teams, do it. It's plain and simple. Now, I had a listener ask the following question. Without Mara, the women are playing like the 14th best team in the Big Ten or in the conference. I know you're a big fan of the coach. How does this team right the ship? How does Coach Plitz-White right the ship here? Now, sadly, they're not wrong. That listener is not wrong at all. Minnesota has looked a shell of themselves in these past few games. And there are multiple things that stand out that have been going wrong with this team. Now you're looking at the record overall, and they have 6 straight losses, with 3 of those being teams that you had no business losing to. Minnesota has to find a way to get back on track and in that W column, because the L's are stacking up. And as L's stack up, uncharacteristic things happen for teams. You start to have comebacks from teams that you're leading on. You start to have bad play or trends that that's not just how you play ball, and they tend to stack up, and the errors tend to add up, and it just becomes a breaking point where you get on a big losing streak like we are seeing right now. But the next 2 games are ones that are very winnable for the Gophers, just like that Rutgers game, which they should not have lost. But they have 2 more opportunities back to back to get back on track. And you need to get these wins to hopefully get yourself to look at the WNIT and be able to have some postseason play, which this youngest team in the Big Ten could very much use. So Minnesota needs 3 things to get back on track right now. The first thing is priority numero uno, and that is fixing your gosh darn turnovers. Because in the last 4 games without Mara Braun, the Gophers have had 15 turnovers against Penn State, 18 turnovers versus Michigan State, 23 turnovers versus Ohio State, and 17 turnovers versus Rutgers. This team's goal is often to get to 11 turnovers or less in any given game. If they can get 11 or less in any game, they think they'll have a very good shot at winning games. And yet they haven't even sniffed that number, that 11 number, in the past 4 or 5 games. And so you have to get back to taking care of the ball. You're missing a key piece in Mara Braun, yes, but Coach P needs this team to slow down and make better decisions, whether it's breaking the press, whether it's lackadaisical passing. They have to find a way to play better under pressure. Hearts on fire, mind on ice is what they like to say, and they got to take care of the basketball. Now, number 2 of getting back on track is you have to reprioritize your defense. Minnesota has had 15 games where they didn't allow their opponent to score above 66 points. And in those 15 games, Minnesota went 13-2, with the only losses being to UConn and then to Wisconsin by 3. That Wisconsin loss was tough. It was an anomaly, but 13-2 speaks for itself, that when this defense is on point and slowing down the other teams as opposed to high pressure scoring, that's when they're able to win games. The defense is this team's bread and butter. It is the staple of this team. And over the last few games, they have definitely been dropping the ball. They've been a step behind. And right now, opponents have scored above that 66-point mark, Minnesota has been 1-9 in those games. And in the five games that they have been without Mara Braun, or like the last 5 games, 4.5 without Mara Braun, because she ended up leaving in the late second half of the Illinois game. But in those last 5 games, Minnesota has let each opponent score 71 or more. So we're talking multiple baskets better than what they consistently do with the 66 points or less. So if you look at that and you include, they just let Rutgers, who was 1-12 in the conference prior to this game, score 80 points, which it had only done one other time all season versus a high major team. You've got to clean up the defense. The defense is the staple of this team. It's what this team has been known for. It's what had this team scrapping in games against your Huskies in the first half and things like that, against the Michigans and the Michigan States and whatnot. How they pulled off those wins was having rock solid, bear down, grit, hard-nosed defense. And they need to get back to that. That is going to be their calling of having any success to close out this year. And then finally, the third thing that needs to happen for this Gophers women's basketball team is they have to allow the offense to flow and run differently. It seems like right now we're still running a system that we were running prior to the Mara Braun injury. And yes, there have been different sets at times, but I think a stronger adjustment is needed to play to the styles or the attributes that our current roster has without Mara, because there isn't anybody who can really truly create their shot when needed. So maybe we need quicker ball movement. Maybe we need some more pick and roll, or some more screens, or some more pops. Overall, I think you need more efficient shots. And I think that we just need to see more adjustment on the offensive end, because trying to play heavy scoring games is not going to be in this team's favor at all. Like I said, you want defense to be priority number one, but right now this team should want to be like the Virginia Cavaliers under Tony Bennett, where you just want to have the lowest scoring possible games. You slow down the game, you play it to your favor, and then you take your opportunities as you get them. So trying to play in lower scoring, scrappier games is probably the better route to go for Minnesota to close out this season. This team needs to be slightly losing their identity. They seem to be losing their identity right now. And it's time for a refresh to save the rest of this season. Now, this will probably also make Minnesota more aggressive in the portal moving forward, is seeing these struggles with Mara Braun off the floor. They might get more aggressive with any openings they have, trying to find one or two more experienced shot creators to make sure that the offense doesn't stall like this moving forward. Now, yes, you would like to see some of your younger players step more into those roles. Amaya Battle, Mallory Heyer, Grace Groholski, seeing those players get more comfortable and being able to create, but you also don't want to force them into roles that maybe they're just not ready for right now. So overall, I think that could play a factor into the transfer portal in this offseason of maybe looking for one or two more experienced shot makers. And then it allows you to have players like Gigi or Mallory Heyer to play their roles into their strengths, even if an injury were to happen to one of those more creators or scorers for the team. Now, Minnesota desperately needs to get back on track in these next two games, and the opportunity is right there. So hopefully they can go and beat Northwestern, beat Wisconsin, get 16 wins at minimum. And if you can go out there and you can pull off an upset win against like a Penn State or something, really get the momentum going, get some momentum going towards the Big Ten tournament, that could be the way to start this or end this season with some more success and some more hope heading into the next year. That's going to do it for us on today's show of Locked On Golden Gophers. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you listening. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk about a little bit more about the football team. We're going to prep you for the Gophers men's basketball team versus Purdue, all that and more. I'll see you then. Roll the boat, Sky Go Gophers. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.